You're listening to Cattywampus.
So Lon teased, Lon hinted at, Lon flat out stated at the end of our last miniseries, we completed the road to Mandy. I forgot the movie for a second. I was like, wait, what Nicolas Cage movie did we all lead up to? It was Mandy. What we now begin today is not a road, but an Odyssey. The Ernest Odyssey, a tentacle.
Uh-huh.
That's a word for it.
Yeah.
Ernest goes to camp.
Part one,
wanna go
Ernest commits
home.
many, many felonies.
Oh yeah. So what is I guess before we start with the text proper, what is everyone's familiarity, if any, with the character of Ernest P. Worrell?
Noel?
I mean, I watched all those movies when I was a kid
good.
and kind of loved them.
Not just me. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Same.
I don't know why.
Yeah. I loved him when I was a kid.
don't know what, like... Because they came out in the 80s,
Yeah,
right?
the late 80s. This one came out in summer of 87.
Right.
So I don't know if they were, like, on TV and that's why I saw them, or if if I just ended up with VHSs, or, like...
It was both.
Because I definitely had... I think I had a few of the VHSs, but I don't know why.
Well, Ernest was a pre-existing character with TV specials and advertisements in the early 80s. So he was not born of whole cloth in this film. This was like, remember when the Geico Caveman got a TV pilot by ABC?
Unfortunately.
Yes, this is kind of like that, except
It actually happened.
Also mostly less racist. Because the cavemen were lived in Atlanta, and they were second-class citizens, and they were referred to, because they're Cro-Magnon men, as maggers, derisively.
That sounds like a bad idea.
Why?
Boy, how far Disney's come. Anyway, you think The Rise of Skywalker is the worst thing they've ever done? Boy, I got some bad news for everybody.
No, that would be Song of the South.
So that's what Ernest is. So the ads typically were shot in a first-person narrative where the camera was the character known as Vern, and Ernest was talking to Vern about his schemes, his Rube Goldberg contraptions, and they would go poorly, and somehow this sold a car dealership. But anyway, that was Ernest in general, and the character became so popular that it led to, I think, a couple TV specials, which led to this film. He's played by comedian Jim Varney, who our generation, not so much Ernest, but grew up loving as Slinky Dog in the Toy Story films. Whether or not
Clamp it.
Wait, is Ernest Goes to Camp the first Ernest movie?
I mean,
Correct.
yes. I no, Corey, we led you astray by starting you with the last one.
I really, like, as we were watching it, I really was thinking Ernest Goes to Jail would be the sequel.
Yes. It's weird that that's the third one? Or is that the fourth? It's the third one, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, after he
But
saves
I really
Christmas,
was like...
he's put in jail for saving Christmas. Well, maybe he's on the
Yeah.
run in the second movie from all these crimes in this movie.
I mean, it would explain his character if every film is him assuming the same identity but in a different part of the country to escape his, what I can only describe as war crimes. And boy,
starting
howdy
in life.
did he commit some crimes in Ernest Goes to Camp.
So, for anyone
I
not...
realized...
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What'd you realize?
I realized while watching Ernest Goes to Camp that I didn't remember basically anything about it. And
No, me either.
I was reminded a lot of like the same kind of humor from like Home Alone, just not as good.
You mean slapstick humor?
Yeah, but the slapstick, and I guess the slapstick also like the bodily harm humor where like someone
Ernest
gets
is-
kicked in the nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, if only
Someone
that was
gets-
all that happened to him.
Someone gets covered in vomit. Someone, trips down a staircase or a ladder falls on them. That's slapstick.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, for people who don't know the plot, And that's probably a lot of people because you probably don't remember this movie. And also, it's not the easiest movie to find. For some reason, Disney, by the way, Disney released these movies, at least first couple, I think. Disney.
Good old Touchtown.
Yeah. Oh, Touchstone Pictures. You kind of had a point at one point. Disney's basically vaulted these movies permanently, it looks like. Because they're very hard to get.
Are they vaulted or were they thrown into the incinerator?
I assume the vault is an incinerator.
They're in that landfill with all those copies of E.T.
That's true. I mean, this is probably better than the E.T. game.
Oh, by a wide margin. But that's only because this was actually a finished product.
That's true. That's true. You definitely don't feel like they didn't shoot anything.
Well, what I assume happened is they filmed a bunch of extra B-roll for a Double Mint commercial and then decided to stick Jim Barney in between all of the shots of B-roll.
There's a couple montages in this movie that really do lend a lot of credence to your conspiracy theory.
Like...
So the movie opens centuries in the past, which is bold for an Ernest
Did not
film.
remember that at all.
At first I was like, ooh, is this the origin of Ernest? Is this like Ernest comes from a long line of fuck-ups? No, it's not. It's about the Plains Native Americans who have this ritual apparently where they test their youth by throwing 3 different kinds of weapons at them to prove their courage, valor, and heart, and all that stuff. I don't remember the exact wordage, but it'll come into play.
I think it's courage. And it's a sword.
It's one
an
of
axe,
them,
and an arrow,
and each one of them represents something like courage. I want to say bravery, but I'm like, isn't that courage?
I think it was like courage.
Heart's one of them.
Courage. It's like courage, faith, and heart, and something like that.
Fortitude, handshakefulness.
They all sound the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me put it this way: they're all the shittiest power you could get in Captain Planet.
They're all Mati. Nobody's Wheeler, except for the one kid in the camp.
Yeah.
But, there's a couple Wheelers in this camp. It opens, I also like that they refer to it as many lifetimes ago, which is my first note. I just wrote down the words many lifetimes ago because that's what came up on the screen. And the other note I had was this was shot in the 2:35:1 aspect ratio, which is a bold stance for Ernest's first cinematic outing. This is shot in scope widescreen. Like the way like Lawrence of Arabia is shot or huge budget action films. Which
I was very surprised about that when I started watching.
Yeah,
I was just like, wait, this is widescreen?
Oh yeah,
I was not ready for that.
It was shocking. I forgot that the Vern conceit carries into these films in that Ernest is speaking to us. Like Ernest sees us. We are culpable in Ernest's crimes. We appear to be his friend or a recent acquaintance. We're not Vern, because he talks about Vern later. But he is constantly breaking the fourth wall and talking to us, which I found. I think the older I get, the more disturbed I become by fourth wall breaking. The more I do not want to watch the fourth wall broken, because I feel more and more responsible or culpable for the character's actions when that happens.
It allows me to be a party to his crazy shenanigans and
I believe the term is accessory.
Copious felonies.
Anyway, Ernest is the janitor, the maintenance man at a summer camp for boys. He has his want is that he is the maintenance man, but he wants to be a camp counselor, which is a very obtainable goal because if he works there, he must have passed some kind of background check, or they don't do background checks. Therefore, he could just be a counselor probably.
I'm going to assume it's that one.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they do background checks.
No.
Considering the counselors also seem like they might be like on a work release program from a prison.
So a school bus shows up and kids and counselors get off. I'm like, wait. So these counselors like in high school, Ernest, which means one of two things. Ernest wants to be a counselor despite it being a summer internship for high schoolers. Or are we meant to believe the Ernest character is like younger than Jim Varney is? Like it dawned on me all of a sudden, like, is Ernest supposed to, because he's childlike. I'm like, is Ernest supposed to be like 19? Like,
Actually,
I don't know about that.
the more I think about this, the more I'm starting to wonder if the whole plot of the Ernest character is he's telling us stories of his life and inserting himself like, I was a kid when this happened, but I don't remember what I looked like. So here's me inserted into
Mark
this plot now.
Twain-esque figure.
Yes. Like, he's telling you this story.
Where like he's a kid, he's afraid of shots. He's like, I mean, he's very childlike, and it really did read to me. Where all of a sudden, like, is Ernest supposed to be like a teenager?
Yeah, but then he also says that he was like in Nam.
That is true. He did say he served in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he's a man's man.
Yeah, but he also lies
fucking
about
quiche.
literally fucking everything in the entire movie.
Well, he's definitely got like Dunning-Kruger effect, and he's definitely like overconfident. But the way he said he was in Nam, I was like, wait a minute. Is the backstory of the Ernest character that he served in Vietnam?
Yeah, I think he is the age he's portrayed as. Or
Yeah,
whatever, but
which by the way, he talks.
He just wants to get a job as a counselor.
How
long has he actually been a janitor there?
Yeah, maybe this is day 2. Well, no, it has to be the last summer because everybody knows who he is. So he's been there for at least a year, which makes you wonder what he does in the off season. Does he live there, a la like Jason?
Well, I mean, he
Voorhees?
does. They showed his little house that
You're
he had
right.
there.
He does live there.
He lives
He's
there,
got a-
so I mean,
Like
if
a pet
that's
turtle, he's got a bed.
yeah, if he's getting room and board, and all he has to do is maintenance this place on the off season, and then work there during the summer, and they're feeding him and everything else. I mean, yeah, it would make
he's
sense
the
if he was there.
caretaker.
Yeah,
He's the
To be-
caretaker. He's
to be
always
fair,
been the
they never-
caretaker.
They never really ask Ernest to do anything in
Well,
the entire movie.
At
He
the
just
beginning,
kind of
he's fixing the sign, and then he tries to fix that toilet incompetently.
yeah. The only thing they ask him to do is to go pick up the kids that we're getting to. But
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, this movie kind of starts over. This movie's only 90 minutes, and for 90 minutes, it one packs a lot of story into it, strangely, and two, it kind of move in a weird way. Is it's so overstuffed? It does kind of. I actually found it to be a pretty brisk watch because I was like, oh, I guess we're done. But the kind of first act of the film, it's like 3-act plays. The first act of the film is that Ernest is hated by the other young counselors. And the head of the camp reveals to the counselors that they are going to this summer be hosting a group of troubled youths from what's referred to as an institution for boys, a boys' institution, like not like a home or a halfway house, but like some kind of juvenile detention center. And so they decide to pawn these kids off on Ernest. That's sort of Act 1 of the film, which is its own little short film, before Act 2 starts, in which an evil corporation jumps into the movie.
the J.C. Penney Institute for Poorly Dressed Boys.
Poorly is excellently dressed boys. But basically, also before that, so there's Nurse St. Cloud. She is a Plains Native American, or she's a Native American. I don't know if they're supposed to be Plains, but he's using Plains Sign Language. He's learned Plains Sign Language to communicate with her and her grandfather, who actually owns this land that the camp is on. Which that plot line seems like the most racially charged. It's both the most racist and somehow the most enlightened part of the movie, in that he's actually learning their language.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of all the setup. Basically the kids show up. Or Ernest goes and picks up these kids. They're referred to as the second chancers. And each one of them has their own pair of trademark 80s sunglasses, and each one of them is known for a different crime. But I'd like to point out that there's a kid in a blazer who is referred to as the Einstein of this boys' institution, which made me want to know what he did, because they are acting like he committed like insider trading. But to keep in mind, these children are 10, like they're not. Like, I don't know how old they're supposed to be, but they're like 10, and at one point he's running a poker game, and he puts Ernest in so much debt that he'll be paying it off for, quote, 14 years.
14 years and a couple months.
And a couple months, yeah. Which means also Ernest has a huge gambling problem.
Yeah, the problem is he's not good at it.
You can say that again.
The problem is he's not, yeah. The problem is he got taken up by fucking Molly's game, but like a 10-year-old.
That's also true.
Yeah, so there's a group of wayward street tough youths that Ernest takes under his wing. They play a lot of games. They play a lot of pranks on him, which leads him to get many shots. At one point, he's so terrified of shots, he admits to a series of crimes, including being Joseph Mengele in hiding, which I thought was great for a kid's movie.
Yeah, it was a really random reference. I was just like, when I was a kid, that went over my head. And even today, I'm still just like, that's going to go over most people's heads.
Yeah, that's a real choice reference. And then the children seem to have super strength and kind of murder Ernest a few times with his face like cartoonishly forms into metal a couple times from being hit with things. I don't know. The movie felt kind of like, at this point, Who Could Kill a Child, the famous cult film in which an island of children murders adults, because they just kind of try to murder Ernest, and just because it's a kid's film, he lives. Which made me ask this question of: so in this universe, can anyone get hurt like that? Like, do the kids know he won't die?
I don't know. I'm starting to think this world runs on Looney Tunes rules, so nobody really dies.
It seems like it.
There's also a subplot of two cooks who seem to be playing kind of like food-based sex games with Ernest, where they kind of force him to eat things and speak erotically, which was very strange. That goes nowhere. Well, they build a food cannon later.
I don't.
And they make fun screaming sounds, and he talks to the lobsters before he throws them in the boiling water.
Boy, by the way, I went to like one camp as a kid. I'm sorry, what is this camp that's having lobster?
Yeah, I don't know.
That
Usually you're eating like fucking
end.
oats and granola.
That is really high end.
Maybe some sloppy joes and hot dogs.
Yeah, powdered eggs.
Yeah, I went to one camp once, and it did not suit me, which I'm sure surprises anyone who knows me.
I'm shocked.
They didn't have steak and lobster at your camp?
No, they didn't have surf and turf. But basically, that's sort of the first like part of the movie. There's a very specific cinematically stereotypical type of young black child in the film, who Ernest saves from a counselor's hate crime drowning, and he kind of becomes Ernest's only friend. Yeah, in our current climate, it was even more chilling than it already would have been. And then a third of the way through, the movie decides that this whole plot of Ernest learning, these kids learning something from Ernest, and Ernest learning something from these kids, which will inevitably end in them being put on the right, straight and narrow path, and Ernest becoming a counselor, is not quite cutting it. At which point, an evil businessman shows up.
They introduced him in the first act, but they don't aggressively start to.
So I looked at it. It's 30 minutes into this 90-minute movie where he's introduced.
I remember distinctly, because about 30 minutes in, I texted Brian and went, "Why the fuck am I still getting plot points a half an hour into this film?"
Because it's a good movie.
Well, first of all, I want to point out that the businessman, who I don't remember the actor's name, and I'm not going to look up his character name, but he's the voice of Rupert Thorne on the Batman animated series. Which I clocked immediately the minute he started speaking. I was like, "Whoa, it's Rupert Thorne!" So I'm just going to refer to him as Rupert Thorne throughout the rest of this, because that's also just an evil business villain that Batman must fight. But he wants the land to get petricite, which I looked up and does not appear to be a thing.
But they need it for defense contracts in space.
And the space program, which I thought was the best part, which is like, this will help the space program and defense contractors. The St. Cloud family does not feel inclined to sell the land to build weapons of war in space. Which are heady themes for this Ernest film in a Reagan's America. It's a shockingly liberal statement. This leads to complications between Ernest, the St. Clouds, the kids. This is all kind of wrapped up while the evil businessmen kind of move around. There's a chilling scene where they take somebody's land, and a large man beats up an old man to kick him out of his house before they tear it down.
Oh yeah, the old man's like pointing a shotgun right at the door, and this guy just comes in and just clocks him.
Well, in the middle of this movie, there's a goddamn John Steinbeck standoff, which I thought was like amazing for Ernest. To the point where which just goes to show you can show kids anything, because I'm sure I watched this movie 17 times and I don't remember any of this, so it clearly didn't affect me negatively.
I don't think any of it's like haunting in terms of like fucking you up as a kid.
It's more haunting as an adult when you realize what the implications are to this.
Yeah. kind of like what Steve said earlier. Like it's very like Looney Tunesy. He's almost like the Elmer Fudd to the Bugs Bunny, I guess.
You know, like it's Looney Tunesy to a point, and there's like certain things that are clearly for adults. Like I like that kids. It would just go over kids' heads where it's like Ernest gets a turtle stuck on his face, and there's this long shot of the kids who go, "Come on, guys, we can jerk that sucker off in a second." And there's enough of a pause where I went, "Was that intentionally a joke?" That would make adults.
I wondered about that.
I was like, was that for the adults in the audience? Which if it were, I as an adult am not charmed or find it funny
especially
when
since there's a
children
bunch
say
of
that.
children saying it.
So Rupert Thorne demands that St. Cloud sign over the land. He refers to it as his patriotic duty, which again is one of those things where I'm like, that's an accurate shit-hill move on his villain's part, but it just seems like more than this movie can handle to have a villain do that. And again, as a kid, like, I don't think that reads to you, but as an adult, I'm like, I find that chilling. This like evil businessman is like says that, and you know, he's saying a lot of slurs. He refers to the sign language as voodoo at one point, and I was like, what is happening in this movie? He's the villain, you know, like they're not, the movie's not showing it in a decent light. But it seems like that. It was something of like Ernest being in Vietnam, where I was like, who's that? Because he tells the kids, why does he tell the kids he was in Vietnam?
I don't think he's been to Vietnam, and he's trying to sound tough.
I don't know. I think that's one of the few truths of the film. I think he went to Vietnam, and I think that's the way.
I think that explains everything.
Also he talks about Vern, and I'm like, since Vern's not the camera in this movie, I'm like, can only Ernest see Vern? Did Vern die in Vietnam? Like,
oh shit! Now you're asking the real questions.
Wait, like what happened to Vern? Like
Vern's buried under Ernest's house.
Vern, I don't think so. I think Vern's like jawbone is on a mantle in Ernest's house, and he's like, that was my friend in Da Nang. This is all that came back from him. You know, or you know what? Maybe it's a like Don Draper situation where really Ernest was Vern, or Vern has taken the identity of this Ernest character.
That would make actually dissociative identity disorder would explain a lot of things.
Yeah, because Ernest is an idiot. Rupert Thorne tricks Ernest into tricking the grandpa St. Cloud into signing over his land, because Ernest doesn't understand what he's doing, because he can communicate with the grandpa, but the grandpa doesn't speak English. And so, Ernest, then it all comes out that Ernest has screwed up. Then there's this shockingly real scene where Ernest breaks down and cries to Nurse St. Cloud after being physically beaten by the corporation's like construction team. And it was a very weird, real moment that's immediately interrupted by Ernest singing.
You didn't like the Ernest musical?
There's a music video in the middle of this movie, because it's shot like a music video and not like a musical number in a movie. It's shot like a music video. Like, you could take it out of the movie and put it on, well, not MTV. Let's say VH1.
Yeah, I definitely did not remember the musical number.
I do not remember. That's one of those.
It was very strange.
Is Jim Varney scared of his reel? Like, does he need some, like, to show that he's got some range?
Well, I mean, that's the worst part of all of this is Jim Varney actually was quite talented. He was classically trained.
I just want to make something clear, like, as we start this Ernest Odyssey. I don't know if I like Ernest, but I really like Jim Varney. He's pretty funny. Like, he's very talented, and there were several moments, I won't say I laughed, but I respected Jim Varney's commitment to this.
He was definitely in it. He wanted this.
Excellent praise. Put that on the poster. Jim Varney is in this film. Although I will say the only time I did laugh once in the movie, and I don't remember which time it was, but it was at least an hour in. At the beginning of the film, Ernest gets off this cart he travels around in, and for whatever reason, it drives off on its own because Ernest forgets to turn it off. But every time you do a wide shot in the film, the cart drives through it, as if to say the cart is like sentient and still driving around since the beginning of the movie. Which, by the way, means the cart's been driving around for, I don't know, weeks. But at one point, it happened. There was enough time passed that it hadn't happened in a while. And I think it's when you kind of start Act 3 and like the sun rises and the cart drives through. I laughed. I was like, that's pretty funny that's still happening in the film. That was the only laugh I got. I laughed once in the movie, and it was that. I was like, and it wasn't like a huge like guffaw, but I was like, ha! Like it did kind of get me.
I think I exhaled loudly. Honestly, I didn't laugh a lot at this movie.
You're describing a sigh, Corey. That's a sigh.
No. It's through your nose. You just do. Yeah.
I think I
Your
laughed
throat
more.
hit the film.
I think I laughed more from the for some reason from the cooks than anybody else.
I found them incredibly disturbing.
Yeah, they were just, I don't know. It's very strange how obsessed they were with the
That was some John Waters
eggs.
terror
I
right
think
there.
the only thing I laughed at in this movie that I genuinely found funny, and I didn't find it funny for the reason they originally intended, was towards the end of the movie with the mass amounts of war crimes he starts committing at the construction workers.
Yeah, so
Because I was just laughing at it, just like, all those people are fucking dead.
yeah, so basically, Ernest decides to take a stand and hold the camp from the construction team that's going to demolish it. There's a montage, a really fun 80s montage of them kind of preparing for war. And most of it's kid-friendly war. It's like, we're building contraptions. But then there is just one shot of one of the kids drawing a switchblade. And I was like, oh, part of the plan. And I joked to myself, oh, part of this plan, part of the montage implies the plan includes murder. Oh, did I not realize that is, in fact, part of the plan? And they basically prepare for war, which includes Nurse St. Cloud begging Ernest to not go to war.
With children. She was just like,
Do not go through with this.
these are kids.
If you're going to give any credence to the Vietnam War vet stipulation, it would have probably been that. Because when they shot those fire arrows, they hit explosive marked boxes.
Maybe Ernest fought on the Viet Cong side.
Ooh, I could see. Yeah, he could have done that.
Yeah, he didn't say which side of the war he was on.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
But she literally says to Ernest, quote, Ernest, you can't win this fight without legal help. And his response is, we're going to war. She leaves the film.
But
She
we're
gets
going
in
to
a
war.
car.
But don't do. We're going to war.
We're going to war.
No, she leaves to go get the restraining order.
Which I really assumed would be against him.
So there's a bunch of comical parts of it. They fire the turtles, which by the way, those turtles are dead.
Yep.
I don't know if people know about it, but if you've never had a turtle, those shells, they're fragile as hell.
Yeah.
They launched the toilet at one point, which I guess Ernest never did end up cleaning. So the toilet's full of presumably excrement. It's very medieval warfare. Early versions of germ warfare.
And I'm guessing high explosive, considering it hit and then exploded.
Well, yeah, because the joke is he dropped a match in it before the catapult they built fired it, implying that the amount of excrement in there has literally fermented into raw fertilizer that also has a catalytic agent.
Ah, good. So Ernest helped plan the Oklahoma City bombing?
Hey, you know what I mean? Hey, Vern.
It's all the food that those guys have been feeding these people.
Maybe Vern was trying. Maybe Vern is Timothy McVeigh, and Ernest is like, hey, Vern. There are kids in that building. You know what I mean? Let's not go that far. Timothy McVeigh was like, no, Ernest.
Timothy McVern.
I have to. Timothy McVern. And then similar to Ernest, and this stuff I was really good screenwriting because Ernest and the villain, Rupert Thorne, are really a mirror of each other because similar to how Ernest refused to listen to Nurse St. Cloud and decided we're going to war, when Rupert Thorne hears about this, his lawyer says, hey, let's just get a court order. And Rupert Thorne's response is, I'm picking up my rifle and getting in a car and I'm going to go shoot these children.
Yeah, that got dark quick.
I loved it. I love the lawyer begging his client to not go on a shooting spree.
Also, I'm sorry, but that is the worst lawyer ever. If he was on my retainer, I would have already fired him, man. Like, I'm just saying,
like
he
to
was
point
not
out
representing the interests of his client at any point there.
Please don't go kill kids.
Okay, I'm sorry. After that, when, oh my God, when the police show up, I got the restraining order, and then we have like a prologue or epilogue.
I don't know if I'm the lawyer.
And they talk about the lawyer giving all this information to, I guess, the DA about this company.
We
involving the
toast
coercion
yeah.
of Ernest.
Yeah.
And
Maybe the lawyer. Well, one, if the lawyer knew about the coercion, he actually does have to point legal to keep his.
But here's my point: he
ability to
didn't know because the
practice.
lawyer wasn't there. The CEO of
Yeah, but if
Blowing Up
the-
Rocks Incorporated goes over to this guy.
Rupert Thorne, yeah.
Rupert
So Rupert
Thor-
Thorne must have told him. But to be fair, if your client picks up a gun and says, "I'm going to go murder children," maybe at that point you're like, "I'm no longer representing this." Maybe at this point you're like, like, look, either I turn on this guy or I'm definitely going to jail too.
Definitely getting kicked from the bar, if nothing else.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Once he picked up the gun and the murder of the children, I think he's like, well, my law career is already. I mean, that's gone. You know what I mean? Now it's how do I stay out of jail?
We might get killed or worse, disbarred.
Like he's trying to cover his tracks because basically Ernest passes the test because the gun, he can't be shot with the gun. The guy misses a bunch of times.
I was really
includes-
thinking that when he put his finger in that barrel, the guy was gonna say and just pull the trigger. I was really waiting for it.
I was waiting for it to like misfire and the barrel literally Looney Tunes explodes into a fucking daisy.
Exactly.
And then
That's
it's just
what I thought was
like this
gonna
big
happen.
patch of like ash and smoke on.
Yes, By the way, missed opportunity film. If I have any criticism, it's that.
He just kind of
Because if they had done that, perfect movie.
he just kind of stops and like he's like and he just gets in his car and leaves.
No, he doesn't.
Well,
He
no,
gives
he
this
fr-
panic
no.
look because Ernest sticks his finger in the barrel.
Because Ernest is immortal. Ernest is
And
unkillable.
he's like, I'm gonna go. And at first I thought, oh, he's freaking out because he can't hit Ernest, and Ernest is clearly batshit insane. But then the camera pans, and there's the police showing up. So no, he wasn't freaked out that he couldn't shoot Ernest, and Ernest was sticking his finger down the barrel of the gun.
No, I disagree. I think no, because the cops show up after he puts down the gun. He puts down the gun and gives Ernest this look of like he can't be killed. like he gives him this look of
Dude, he looks
I've-
scared.
I've
Yeah.
been defeated.
And then
by
the cops are right there.
immortal-
Don't tell me he didn't
the
hear those
immortal
sirens.
No, I
native-
really think he was just genuinely terrified. Just like, oh no.
The cinematic language of the movie indicates that this villain is afraid of the immortal Native American warrior spirit of Ernest.
Right, and if you think about it, earlier in the film, they show him using that rifle and shooting bottles downrange, and he never misses a single shot.
When he misses Ernest, the lawyer, you cut to the lawyer and he goes, that's impossible.
He never misses. Yeah, but
Considering
cut
he
to
was
when,
shooting at him from like 10 yards away.
So the lawyer is like, no, don't go shoot those kids. And this guy's like, I'm going to go shoot those kids. He doesn't actually ever say that, but he gets in the car after he puts his rifle in the passenger seat.
No, I believe he
Note,
literally says,
the lawyer
I'll
gets
handle
in.
this.
I'll,
and gets in the
I'll
car.
handle this. He puts his rifle, kind of in the middle dash area, right? Clearly over on like the passenger side. Then the lawyer runs around, gets in the car because why not? I'm his lawyer.
Well, in for a penny, in for a pound.
just driving and just so focused on the road ahead of him. Hey, maybe the lawyer just put blanks in, Like, he's got to have bullets in the glove. Like, hey, I'll load it up for you. And then he puts blanks in.
Or he fucked up the sight. He notched the sight over. So the
I was
guy
gonna say, I don't
always
think a lot of people keep blanks in their glove box. I could be wrong though.
I don't know if you're that lawyer. Maybe you're like, I always keep blanks on me just in case this guy.
He just zeroes it out to 900 meters. Good luck hitting anything with that.
Oh. Yeah, you're right. The lawyer might be the hero. Basically, either the lawyer is a secret hero or Ernest is an immortal Native American warrior. You decide, audience.
Pretty sure it's the latter.
I like to think it's the latter. I mean, say what you will about the film, but when Ernest stands up to Rupert Thorne and passes the 3 trials, this movie does really uphold the Aristotelian unities of filmmaking and storytelling.
I don't think the flashback cuts to the sword, axe, and arrow from whenever in the past was really necessary to enforce that. I get why they did it, but I know it was the opening shot of the film. There's this trial of
It's cinema, Corey. It's show don't tell. We saw it once, and now we see it in a new context. I mean, Ernest also tells everybody about it too at one point in the movie.
yeah, no, they don't let us forget.
Yeah, but instead of sword, axe, and arrow, it's bullet, and bullet.
Bullet.
America.
the modern version of those weapons.
Part of me wishes this movie had ended with him just like emptying the rifle and missing, then pulling out a handgun and firing it till it's empty and missing, and then just walking up to him with a knife and then just like going to stab him and somehow just falling over next to him.
It was like Neo when he stopped those bullets.
Just like go full The Mask with it.
At this point, Nurse St. Cloud shows up with the police and says that basically off camera, she's like, I got the police, I got an injunction, which makes me think this siege has lasted for weeks.
Yep.
Because I don't know if anyone's tried to get an injunction on anything.
Uh-huh.
That is not a few hour process.
You're not going down there at 12 and coming back at 2. That's a
Oh my
multi-day,
God.
multi-week
Just
process.
to find the notary alone. So anyway, there's an injunction, and then we cut to, I don't know, a couple what must be weeks later, because the camp's being rebuilt from the carnage and devastation led by Ernest. And off camera, it's somehow the boys don't have to go back to the institution for their crimes. So they live at the camp now, I guess, with Ernest. Unclear,
Yeah,
but
that was
been
expressly. They said that they're living there indefinitely.
He adopts all
But I
the
don't know
kids.
why. like what?
And he
what
doesn't. They don't have to
changed?
go to school.
So don't tell the kids this, but the the whatever you call it, the juvie's filled up and they can't take them back. So they just got to stay over with good behavior early release. Just don't tell them that.
Just stay with this old Vietnam vet who talks about somebody who you've never seen.
Yep.
But anyway, so Ernest is fixing the sign from the beginning. He falls over with the sign, and at which point the grandfather, who heretofore has never been subtitled, Nurse St. Cloud speaks on his behalf, but translating. He speaks, and there's the one and only subtitle in the film, which is translating what he said. Ernest broke the sign, which I gotta tell you, one of the best uses of withheld subtitles. Not since The Hunt for Red October have I seen such mastery of using subtitles cinematically. Again, I didn't laugh, but I did respect the joke. And that's sort of the... also Ernest is made a counselor, obviously, because he presumably... because he won his war. Also, I guess because he's friend. You know what's also weird is the dude who owns the land is like Ernest's friend. Why doesn't the landowner just come in to look at that counselor and go, "Hey, make my friend a counselor"?
Yeah. And also, he's better than basically all of the counselors. He doesn't push the kids in the water. He doesn't instigate fights and burn down teepees.
No, he takes them camping.
He's the best counselor.
You're right. It's true. While he's a incompetent idiot, counseling's not actually that like requires that much. You basically have to keep the kids alive and give them fun activities to do every day. And Ernest definitely nails those two points. And Nurse St. Cloud, I don't know that she's that great a nurse. All she seems to do is just inject Ernest with stuff every day.
I mean, the poison ivy didn't, kill him. Oh.
Speaking of Mengele.
So, I mean, the shot must have
Well,
done
that makes
Slade.
sense, actually.
Yeah, and then there's a mid-credit scene where the cooks invent some kind of transmutative soup, and one of them turns into a lounge crooner.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I definitely missed
I
that.
think you're making this up, David.
There's a mid-credit sequence. So the song that starts, they transmute the cook transmutes the other cook, and he turns into the guy singing the song.
All right.
Guys,
I turned it off the second I saw credits.
well, yeah, well, okay, you guys, you didn't see it when Vern showed up and asked Ernest to join the Avengers Initiative.
That would have been a fantastic ending.
I thought after middle credits scenes were like a Marvel thing. I didn't.
Oh no, they've been around forever. I mean, not forever, but like, Ferris Bueller ends with there's a sequence after the credits.
What?
Yeah. Oh my God, am I blowing your mind, Corey? Yeah, at the end of Ferris Bueller.
Wow.
After the credits go, Ferris comes out of the shower and goes, "You guys are still here? The movie's over. Get out of here. Go." And he
I
shoos
feel
you
like
away.
a lot of the post-credit scenes used to be like just comedy movies to kind of tell you like what happened to the characters after the movie.
Yes. I'd say that was a big thing in the 80s. I mean, a movie we've covered on this very show, Street Fighter, has a post-credit sequence. If you recall, Bison's fist comes out of the wreckage, and the computer starts over. It says, "Play again, world domination."
I like how you hesitated to call this a show.
There is one thing we didn't address, and that was during the film, towards the very end, where the cart comes back for the second to last time,
Again, setup and payoff.
and they fill it with high explosives to run it at the bulldozer. And it explodes, destroying the bulldozer. And then the big dude that had previously beaten the absolute shit out of Ernest gets out of the bulldozer, burned and succumbed to smoke inhalation.
You got "This Is Us."
And Ernest just punches him in the face.
Well,
Does anyone here even get that reference?
Nope.
here's the thing, man. Like they had a lot
Just
of
like-
explosives on the.
It was quite a cultural phenomenon. That's how the smoke inhalation is how the dad died in this.
And then he got punched in the face by Jim Varney.
Well, yes. For God, this is such a flash in the pan that people don't even remember this now. Probably may not even remember this. This Is Us was a very popular show on network television that had this mystery at the core, which because the show took place during two timelines, following the children in the past who are now adults and how their lives connect back, and their father is notably absent in the present and clearly has died, and they kind of drew out what happened, and there was these weird clues. Specifically, an Instapot was like the only big clue. Like the daughter freaks out at Instapots because basically a malfunctioning pressure cooker caused a fire in their house when they were kids, and you're like, oh, he must have died in the fire. And then when the Super Bowl rotates to every network, so when it got to NBC, they lined it up so that the episode where they revealed it was after the Super Bowl their year. And Milo Ventimiglia, Hero's own Milo Ventimiglia, who has played the dad in the past, the fire starts. And they have made it in such a way that you get to every moment where you're like, oh, this is where he dies. Oh no, he goes back in for the dog. Don't die saving the dog. Don't Jonathan Kent and Man of Steel this. You saved all the kids. But he saves the dog and he gets out and he's in the hospital and everything's fine, and then he just drops dead. And you find out that the smoke inhalation is what killed him hours after the fact. Spoilers for This Is Us. Spoilers for a cultural moment that happened like 5 fucking years ago.
So Jim Varney does not show up and punch him in the face.
I'm sorry, I forgot about how Jim Varney invaded the hospital, pushed past Mandy Moore, and just started punching Milo Ventimiglia. Anyway, would anyone else like to know any other thing Milo Ventimiglia was being in? He was in Rocky Balboa. He was his son.
Didn't see it.
It's the third best Rocky movie?
I saw the first one. That's all I needed.
Oh, you gotta watch 4. We'll watch 4.
Oh no.
When he ends the Cold War? Are you kidding me?
Is that the one where he has the robot butler?
Yes, of course it is. Why would I show you any of them that don't have the robot butler?
Good point.
I'm just wasting everyone's time if I do that. It's irresponsible of me as the host of a podcast to show someone a Rocky movie that isn't Rocky 1 or the one where he has a robot butler.
So, which is the best Rocky movie?
Well, Rocky 1, obviously. Rocky 1's a real movie. Like Rocky 1's like an actual piece of cinema. The rest are all
Rocky 4 number 2?
No, Creed, which is also a real movie, is the best.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I forgot Rocky Balboa. I don't know. You know what? On the road to Rocky, we will find out.
There's too many Rocky films, apparently.
And they made a Creed 2.
There's 8 films if you counting Creed and Creed 2. There's 8.
That's
Rocky
ridiculous.
Films. I mean, it isn't it. I mean, he says the man who loves Friday the 13th. People in Jason houses shouldn't throw Rocky stones.
But I don't know. I feel like at least
there's like 13 of those.
At least he, sometimes he
to
goes
space.
to space, and sometimes he goes to Manhattan ish.
He didn't go to Manhattan. He got on a boat.
Yep.
Jason took a cruise, and then for 10 minutes he went to Manhattan.
But and then one time he went to hell, I guess. And
again, right at the end. What a letdown.
Yeah, at least he does things other than, just box with other characters.
Hey, is it weird that, and maybe I'm not the first person to point this out, but is it weird that all the Friday the 13th subtitles are basically spoilers for what happens at the end of each of the movies?
Never really thought about
Jason goes to hell. That's how the movie ends. Jason takes Manhattan. That's how the movie ends. The final chapter. That's because Jason dies at the end.
What about, isn't there like New Blood?
There's a new beginning. Is it a new beginning? Which is
that
the new beginning's 5, and then 6 is it New Blood?
Well, because I guess is it 5 or is it 6 where it's not actually Jason?
Roy, that's 5. That's the very next. So the one after he dies is it's Roy, a ambulance driver. And then 6 he comes back, and then 7 is the one with the psychic, which I can't remember the name of that one.
So 5 is A New Beginning. 6 is Jason Lives.
Jason
Lives. 7 is the New Blood.
Jason Lives. Big spoiler. He survives the film. But yeah, that's weird. I've never thought about that till right now. And Jason X, as we know, X is a symbol for space. Wait, is that why Elon Musk named it SpaceX?
Probably.
Teslas are based on the Uber Jason.
Jason drives for Lyft.
I still can't believe they called him Uber
The
Jason.
Cybertruck's based on Freddy. When you get in the Cybertruck, it calls you bitch.
That would be fair. I'd buy that.
You'd buy that for $1?
Damn right.
I'm still waiting on my my Friday the 13th COVID mask to get here.
You got a Friday the 13th COVID mask?
So Tom Savini and one of the special effects designers, basically they're teaming up and they're making hockey masks for COVID.
I mean, in an age where so many people are buying Bane versions of them, I guess the Jason one is just one white trash step away from a Bane one, isn't it? I feel like we've left Stephen Corey behind in our
Friday the 13th cast.
No, go on. It's fine.
Yeah, don't stop on my account. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Don't stop on my account. I'm just reading. I've just pulled out a good book while we continue. Ernest Goes to Crystal Lake. By the way, if this were Camp Crystal Lake and Jim Varney,
I would watch that.
Oh, I would. Hey man, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein needs to come back. There are so many eras of comedy where it's like, imagine if Ernest had met Jason and Freddy. How great would that have been?
What is this? A crossover episode?
Especially if they kept up the same like Looney Tunes style.
Yeah, and in the mid 2000s, while we had the Asian horror remake boom, we could have had like Borat meet meets
Ghostface.
meet Ghostface from Scream, and the girl from The Rain, and the boy from The Grudge, the Blair Witch themselves.
Actually, you know what? A found footage movie where Ernest takes a couple kids into a camp with like a VCR trying to find ghosts.
The VCR, huh?
I'd watch that too.
Sorry. You're describing as 99% of the programming on like Discovery Channel now.
True.
But yeah, Ernest. I mean, obviously Jim Varney, God rest his soul, has left this mortal coil and now walks among the Titans. But we cannot have any more Ernest. But I would love for a new Ernest type to take the reins. Perhaps his son, Vern the Second, can rise and take children into a camp yet again.
Who would be? Is there anything similar to Ernest now? Like, I don't really keep up with a lot of kids stuff.
I mean, I think the closest thing is like what we got, like Larry the Cable Guy was like the closest thing, and I don't just mean because he's playing White Trash. I mean, like, it's a character played by a comedian.
Yeah, I mean, isn't Ernest kind of like a redneck?
And he got movies.
Isn't Ernest kind of like a redneck Pee Wee Herman? Kind of.
Sort of. I mean, this goes back. This goes back to vaudeville. Like these kind of characters have been around forever. You know, like it's not like a new thing. But yeah, for all we know, there's somebody doing this right now, doing something similar right now that we're not even aware of.
I mean, they probably are doing it. It's just on YouTube, and it's not going to get mainstream enough to flesh out a series of movies.
Oh, what was that YouTube guy who played like a weird, like childlike character who got his own movie made by YouTubers? He got like a trilogy of them. Oh, wait. No, there is that. This exists. Hold on.
No, wait. When did this happen?
Like, not that long ago.
Okay. I mean, making videos is all YouTubers do.
No. Hold on. Yes, I understand that. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand how YouTube works, Corey. Thank you. Thank you for the revelation.
Yeah, you make a video and you put it on YouTube, and then people watch it or they hate it.
That's all content. That's all videos.
Usually, when people hate it, they didn't actually watch it. Did you know?
Wait, how could they hate it but not watch it? That doesn't make any sense.
So and so told me that this is a trash video, so just click on this link and hit the downvote button.
Why?
Because that's how the internet works, David. God.
Why would you put in that effort?
To show them. I don't know. I don't do this, but it happens.
I mean, I put a downvote on all the Diablo Immortal stuff.
Why?
Same.
Because I was
like it.
displeased.
But you haven't played it.
I wanted to give them my digital thumbs down.
But you haven't played it.
Yeah, I just didn't care for it.
Well, I can't exactly downvote someone on stage making.
Also, real quick, that game's still not fucking out
Wait.
yet.
You don't have to downvote anything.
That.
Wait, why are you all downvoting marketing?
That's a great question.
Fuck marketing.
Like, what is the impulse to look at a piece of marketing and go, I need to let the people who hired this marketing firm know.
They need to know that
I
we don't want
like
it.
this marketing firm's material. Yeah, but that's not. You don't want it by not buying it. That's how they'll know you don't want it. If they're just going to look at the trailer and go, well, obviously it's not a good trailer. This is how you ended up with a trailer cut of Suicide Squad or Suicide Squad being cut by Trailer House. At no point did they take the poor reaction to the first 2 trailers of Suicide Squad and go, oh, well, maybe we should shelve the movie. They went, we just need a different trailer. Like it's too late. Money was spent. Like the game's happening.
So, about Diablo Immortal, it's still in development in a true Blizzard style, even though Blizzard's not actually developing it. Figure that one out.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what's probably happened to is what happened to StarCraft Ghost, where
Yeah,
Blizzard's
it's
not
dead.
doing the development, but they're trying to over micromanage it so much that the company that they hired to do the development is stuck in this eternal purgatory of never being able to check anything off the list. I have no doubt that's what they're doing. It's like smothering of micromanaging.
They announced it 2 years ago, and there has been no.
That's an eternity for mobile game development.
Right, and there's been no information since.
There's been no information
they
since
put a trailer.
Well, there's been no information since that Diablo 4 trailer, but that doesn't mean they're not doing it.
Here's the thing: PC game.
Yeah, but I feel
PC
like-
gets announced. It's like, oh, that might take 5 or 15 years if you're Duke Nukem Forever. That's kind of how things go sometimes. But in mobile games,
Yeah.
Mobile-
you announce
yeah.
your mobile game,
It's out
That
in a
shit's
month.
out in 3 months. It's already
Isn't
done.
this technically Blizzard's first mobile game though?
But it's not because they're not developing it.
I really think, like we were saying, like we downvoted it. The entire fucking world downvoted those trailers, and the reception of the announcement was like, "Fuck this game," because the reveal made it sound like that game was going to be out in a few months, and they have not announced anything since. And it'll probably come out, but they probably went back to rebuild or redo.
What do you
something.
mean rebuild it? It was just being built on top of an existing game.
Here's the thing, man. Like, we could have released 4 Diablo
Yeah.
Immortals in the time since they did that announcement if this was any other. I don't understand what the holdup is. And I'm guessing is what happened to StarCraft Ghost. That game was in development hell for years before it finally got axed. But there was an almost completed product ready at several
Or Titan?
points. Oh, yeah. Well, Titan's Overwatch now. So you see, unlike StarCraft Ghost,
Yeah.
those assets were used.
Yeah.
Well, couple things. One, Brian, this is the same behavior you mock by sending me your friends Zack Snyder things. This is the exact same behavior that you all are exhibiting. This is 'cause Brian often sends. I don't know if he sends you guys this, but I find it immensely enjoyable. Which is Brian sends me these screenshots of his friends on social media who are true dyed in the wool Snyder bros who post daily about like wanting the Snyder cut. And
Oh,
Hey, they're
good
getting it.
yeah,
news.
well, yeah, but like this behavior, Brian, that you are mocking is the behavior of being like, I don't really know about this and I'm not going to play it, but I'll definitely be angry at the trailer. Like, that's the same behavior. But well, I'm not going to say I don't want Diablo Immortal. I don't care. I wasn't going to play a mobile version of Diablo, or I don't really play many mobile games other than Tetris, so this isn't really for me. I think it's just weird that I think their only mistake was, hey, you're a crowd of PC gamers. We're doing this mobile game, and because intense hardcore video game fans who travel to a convention for a single company, which is the most insane thing I've ever heard about, but apparently is a thing, decided
Apple keynote.
They invite journalists. I can't go to the Apple keynote, nor would I.
Well, you answered my second question with that answer. So, moving on.
Yeah, nor would I if they were like, I could live down the street. Maybe if I lived down the street and it was free and I don't have to stand in a line, but I don't think any of those things will ever be true.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of like going to like an Xbox conference and announcing a PlayStation exclusive.
Well, no, it's not. You went to Blizzard Con and Blizzard talked about a game from a franchise that they own. And because the kind of people they were talking to were it turns out they are a little bit intense and not the most reasonable people. The kind of people who would go to a convention designed for one company, shocking, decided instead of going, oh, we don't really care about that, what else you got, decided that this was an affront to their entire existence. Because like
That's a
advantage-
remarkable presentation because after that all happened, they also canceled HGC, which effectively killed Heroes of the Storm. So they did a real 2-for-1er that year, let me tell you.
this is why it's so weird to be like, I love this one company. Like, I am so obsessed with a company that I would go to a fan convention run by that company for that company is baffling to me. I'm like, dude, I'm like that is some 19. That's some.
You think that's a little
shit.
wacky? I've got news for you. There's something.
I think it's more a little wacky.
No,
I think it's downright disturbing.
There's one tier up from that. So there's a game called Warframe, right? They have a convention called TinnoCon. It is all about this one free-to-play game that this one company works on.
Why isn't it called Warframe Con?
At least Warframe is a finished game.
No, it's not.
What about Star Citizen? What about Star Citizen?
Warframe is not
You can't even
finished. Warframe is technically still in beta.
All right.
Warframe's more finished than Star Citizen.
People go to a fucking Star Citizen convention. You basically can't even fucking play that game.
Oh yeah, Star Citizen. Well, that's because Star Citizen's never going to be finished because it doesn't need to be. It's now up and over $300 million
for people that want this game, and he's just, I don't know what he's doing with their money, but he must be having fun with it.
Yeah, it's because it's Chris Roberts, and Chris Roberts exists for feature creep. He's been demoted or fired from 2 companies prior to this for starting games and then never being able to finish them because he's just like, well, I want to add this now, and I want to add that, and I'm going to add this. Can we just have a finished game? No, because I got to put more shit in it.
We just spent 3 months debugging and getting ready for release. No, we got to add 2 new features that are going to break everything. And by the way,
I
we're doing an
made a
engine
new
upgrade.
ship. It shoots dicks. It's going to be great. It's going to cost $8,000.
I cannot
And
believe that
that's
game has
not really an
fucking made
exaggeration.
$300 million, and you still really can't even fucking play it. That drives me insane.
The system requirements for this title are so off the wall. You have to have a top tier gaming PC in order to even fire this thing up. And even then, the load times are trash. The frame rates are low. I just don't get it. Like, how? How did they fuck this up so bad? And then you look at the guy behind the project. He has a history of doing this. His entire career, this has been his problem. And at some point, he decided, I'm going to go grassroots. And this is the result. And all the idiots that keep giving him money, out of sunk cost fallacy, will defend this stupidity until the end. Because they've already spent thousands of dollars on virtual spaceships, and they have a game that runs like shit, and they really just hope that someday it's kind of maybe worth it.
But they go to a convention once a year for this game that isn't even fucking out, and at this convention he announces things that still don't come out for the next fucking year.
Yeah, I guess compared to Blizzard, Blizzard's a fast developing company, right?
Yeah, the next thing I'm expecting for them is being like, well, this game really, it's been really hard to optimize, and Unreal just got back to us about their UE5 stuff. So we're going to scrap what we've got and restart over in UE5 because it'll make things a lot easier to run.
I mean, at least if they stay in the Unreal Engine tree, their assets will be somewhat portable. I've migrated games back and forth between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3.
They're not on Unreal Engine, though.
No,
they're using
using some proprietary.
No, it's I think it's Crytek.
Are they using CryEngine?
Why?
It's either CryEngine or it's the Amazon.
Well, there's the problem. Why
Um,
doesn't it have good frame rates? Oh, I don't know. This engine doesn't optimize. We don't know what occlusion
Oh,
is.
no, this does run on Lumber.
What's
It
that?
is running
Render
on
every
Lumberyard.
pixel all the time.
David, do you have any idea what we're talking about?
Sorry, David.
They can't even keep subtitles in sync for movies they stream, so don't even. By the way, I found that YouTube guy. It was called Fred.
Oh my
Fred
god, I
Figglehorn.
know you're
He had
talking
3
about.
movies. Yeah, he had millions of views. He was like a childlike character. And he had 3 films. I believe they were all straight to
And then he died?
to video. No, he's still around.
Okay, you
His
just
real name
said
was Lucas Cruikshank, and
You just keep talking about him in the past tense, so I'm like, is he dead?
well, these movies are incredibly old. The first
Oh.
Fred movie is incredibly old. The movies are from 2010 to 2011 and 2012. The third one was on the movie. There was some kind of deal struck with Nickelodeon. Is the deal? So yeah, they don't appear to be theatrically released, but I mean they were major productions. One of them included John Cena.
Great.
Yeah. But anyway, the point being, like, this is an example of this.
Well, I think that was Ernest.
Yeah. So anyway, what do we all think about Star Citizen? Which is I understand what By the way, what kind of game is it? Like, what is it? Like forget all the bullshit about like the real world. What is just the game supposed to be?
As of right now, it's a game where you can fly around in a spaceship with your friends. But the idea was to create...
What you're describing sounds like so many video games.
So yeah, the idea is to create this entire world in space where you can go to from planet to planet, and you can board other people's ships, and you can be a space pirate. You can do anything. You can be a merchant. You can the idea is to basically make this infinite possibility game.
Hey,
which isn't fucking
hey
possible.
guys, look over
that's
there.
called
There's
the
a
world.
finished game with a lot of great like expansion
Life?
pack level add-ons that have come up for free. That's out.
outside
It's
your
called No Man's Sky, and guess what? It runs great, and it has everything you just described, and it's cheap.
I would love a video game developer to come out and say, we decided for this game that we have zero interest in creating a world. Because it feels like when you're like, the idea is it's supposed to be this huge world with all these things. Like, I feel like that's everyone who ever pitches a video game ever for the last like 10 years. It's like, we really wanted to create this massive world where you could go. I would love for someone to come out and be like, it's a very limited world.
I mean, there's
Honestly, there's kind of no world.
there are indie games that come out. It's just like, yeah, it's a linear playthrough. It's it's just a roguelike.
Yeah.
Like
It's just not the words you hear come out of a lot of developers' mouths. It's just like, no, there's no world.
We've created this vast, immersive world where you can do anything you want.
It's a creative,
It just-
open world, procedurally generated, survival, craftable. Am I ringing any bells yet? Because that's most games that have come out the past decade.
You might be ringing bells, but I can't hear them over the sound of me trying to find money to give you for this.
All of it, please. And by the way, this game's staying in pre-release alpha for at least 5 years. I'll take your money, please. Pre-order now, and I'll send you a T-shirt sometime.
I can't believe I either have to cut all this out or literally hashtag Blizzard on our first episode of Ernest.
Enjoy.
That is. Should we just change our name to
Nope.
Blizzard Cast? I wonder if that's available.
Since Destiny broke up with Blizzard, I haven't had a lot to say about them, honestly.
Right, and then eventually Bungie went to camp.
What?
That's our podcast.
Honestly, it's been so long since I've talked about Ernest. Ernest went going to camp that I literally thought there was a studio named Camp, and then my brain broke, Brian, and then I was like, what?
I did it.
Dave,
I'm successful.
David, your profile picture's
What?
been replaced with the blue screen. I'm not sure how, because I know you use a Mac, but there it is.
That's weird. My profile screen is just a picture of the Blizzard logo now. Blizzard's a verb now. How many Blizz bucks do you have?
That's a thing.
I'm sure it fucking is, and I'm sure we can talk about it for 45 minutes after the next Ernest. So tune in, audience.
Did
Did you know that if you send money over Blizzard's financial network, it takes a week to become accessible by the party you sent it to?
No, Corey, and maybe our audience didn't either. I guess we'll have to find out more about during our next episode of the Ernest Odyssey.
You've been listening to Cattywampus. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr at CattyWampusPod. Email us at cattywampuspodcast@gmail.com. Music by Tilly.